Hello everyone, my name is Amanda, and for this museum project I decided to visit the virtual museum of Mesopotamia at the Louvre Museum in Paris. And I picked Mesopotamia because we've been learning about it in class, and honestly it's kind of crazy how much we still use today that actually started there, like writing and laws and religion. So let's jump right into it. So before I get into the artifacts, I'll tell you a little bit about the Louvre. The Louvre is one of the most famous museums in the world. It's in Paris, France, and it's the one with the giant glass pyramid out front. Most people think of the Louvre as just a place with the Mona Lisa, but it's got way more than just paintings. It has a huge collection of artifacts, like stuff from Mesopotamia and Egypt and Greece. And what's cool is that they let you do a virtual tour from home. So now on to Mesopotamia. If you don't remember from class, the word Mesopotamia literally means land between the rivers, and it's talking about the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. That area is now modern day Iraq. So this region is where some of the very first human civilizations developed, like the Sumerians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. These people invented things that we totally take for granted now, but I'm talking about like writing and law codes and the idea of cities. So it's not just old stuff, it's stuff that actually like shaped the entire world. So one of the coolest things I saw was the code of Hammurabi. It's this big black stone pillar that's covered in writing. It was made about 1750 BC or BCE when Hammurabi was the king of Babylon. The writing on it is cuneiform, which I'll talk more about in a second, but basically the stone has one of the oldest sets of written laws ever, like actual laws that people had to follow. It shows us that like even back then societies were trying to figure out how to keep people in line and make things fair. So I feel like it really connects to how we talked in class about like governments trying to control society and keep order. So now let's talk about cuneiform. These little clay tablets were used by scribes to write things down, and they press a wedge-shaped tool into the wet clay to make the symbols, and once it dried, boom, it was permanent. They used cuneiform for all kinds of stuff, like writing and recording stories and keeping track of trade. It was actually the first writing system ever invented, which is pretty big, because without writing there's no history, no laws, no receipts, no nothing. So seeing the tablets in the Louvre made me realize how much effort actually went into building cities and running them. Like imagine doing your homework on a clay tablet with a stick. That is not ideal. And next, these ones were super interesting. The Muesum statues. They're these giant creatures that have the body of a bull or lion, the wings of an eagle, and a human head. And they used to stand at the gates of Assyrian palaces around 700 BCE to guard the entrances, and they were meant to scare enemies and also show power. The kings wanted to remind people that they had the gods on their side, so in a way these statues were like giant "do not mess with us" signs. But the detail carved into the stone is pretty cool too. You can see the fur and the feathers, and I think even the muscles you can see. These statues really showed how religion and politics were connected, because the kings weren't just rulers, they were seen as chosen by the gods. Another set of artifacts I found interesting were these small statues of worshippers. They're from places like Tal Asmar, and they found and they were found inside temples. What's unique about them is their big, wide open eyes and the way they're always in a praying position. The idea was that these statues would keep praying to the gods for you, even when you weren't there. So that really shows how important religion was back then in people's daily lives. But people didn't just go to a temple once a week. Their whole lives revolved around making the gods happy. These statues helped us to understand how people back then thought about the world around them and how they tried to stay on God's good side. So next up are ziggurats. These were huge temple towers, like giant steps leading up to the sky. But only priests could go to the very top, which was considered sacred. The models and artwork showing ziggurats made it clear that religion wasn't just something people believed in. It literally shaped the way they built their cities. And the ziggurats were often the tallest and most important buildings around. They believed the gods lived up so high. So building upwards was a way to get closer to them, which this totally connects with how religion shaped early civilizations, which we've been talking about all semester. So how this ties into our class? Honestly, I feel like it ties to our class in every way. We've been learning about how the first civilizations developed things like religion and government and writing and cities. And Mesopotamia did all of that first. So these artifacts show that stuff in real life. Instead of just reading about it in a textbook, I actually got to see the objects people used and wrote on and worshipped. So it makes the whole thing way more real and memorable. Like when you see a 4,000-year-old tablet, or it kind of hits different than just reading Sumerians invented writing, you know. So now for my review of the exhibit. I thought it was really well done, and the virtual tour was easy to use, and the photos from the artifacts were super clear. And I liked how each artifact had a good description next to it, so it didn't feel overwhelming. And I also liked that the layout kept it interesting. It didn't feel like I was reading a boring old history textbook, you know. So I honestly feel like the exhibit made ancient Mesopotamia feel less like a faraway thing and more like something that still matters today. But overall, the way the museum presented everything made it easier to understand, and it felt just way more engaging. So I definitely check this out and recommend this museum if you're into history or just want to see some cool ancient stuff. But thank you.